Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the right time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for joining us here. It's like the ESPN Podcast Network. I feel like we need a fancy name for the whole network. So I can be like ESPN Radio in the ESPN app. But I guess people listen on the ESPN app now. That's where you can go. We are here. It is Thursday. This is normally when we talk to other people and we go out and try to get you all the big name guests that we can. And sometimes they all say no and I just call up my friends. In this case, we have the wonderfully gracious Amin Elhassan on the West Coast joining us here today. And I have to ask you this because I just saw this as the music was playing, Amin. And I don't know if you know about this, but did you know that somebody stole $50,000 worth of tractors from Scottie Pippen?
$50,000 worth of tractors?
Tractors at the crib in Arkansas. Somebody stole 52 tractors. They was worth $50,000, and it's a livestock farm he owns with his brother.
See, I don't want to make light of larceny, of someone being a victim.
I know what you're going to do. I know what you're going to do. You're going to let all your New York out.
Come on, man. Like, this is like the stereotype that you guys don't want us to have of you. But what am I supposed to do with this?
The problem with cats like you is you don't understand the difference between like somebody from me being from Houston and Scottie Pippen being from, say, Hamburg, Arkansas. That's where we get mad
all
at
the
y'all.
Same. All the same.
It's all the same. During the All-Star weekend, I was at a spot, and it was some corporate party, and they told me that it was Scottie Pippen's event, and I didn't realize it, and I didn't see him or get to talk to him, but I looked over at a room, and I instantly knew that that was the Pippen room, because I know a room full of people from Arkansas when I see them. And then I looked at all the Bulls gear. I was like, yeah, Arkansas is in the house. And that's no disrespect, right? Like, you know when it's a room full of New Yorkers.
You can't tell a room full of New Yorkers, definitely.
Yeah, you know.
They're usually very loud.
Yes.
And they want you to know that they're from New York. So one way or another, they're gonna try and sneak it in.
Yes, that is what we do. All right, now, we got NBA playoff action with the Cavs and the Pacers. Would you rather talk first about the basketball part of it or the television production part of it?
What's the television production angle here?
Well, you know, Gregg Popovich's wife died yesterday, and the news came down around game time. We get to the end of the game. Alan LaForce of TNT asked LeBron about it, and he seemed to be taken aback by being told. We find out that actually she had tipped him off that she would ask him the question. He said, okay, go ahead and ask the question. But my question for you on that is, even if he knows the question's coming, can't that wait?
That's definitely the better question. You know, a lot of people reacting to, why would she spring that on him? And obviously she didn't. You know, for those that don't know the behind the scenes of this, they always chat with the subject for about 30 seconds before they go on air. And when you're going to ask something that's that sensitive a topic, they'll let them know, hey, are you comfortable answering this question? Because it really didn't have anything to do with his game. That's why. But the better question is, even given the option of a heads up, why do we want everyone to comment on this on the spot without having the benefit of sitting down, composing their thoughts, etc.? It's a weird thing, Bo, and this is something that I got to tread a fine line, but because I'm always weirded out by something like this happens, and obviously it's a terrible thing. Obviously, no one likes to hear someone passing away, but the rush of everyone to get to Twitter to let everyone know, hey, my thoughts and prayers are with Gregg Popovich. Pop can't even pick you out of a lineup, bro. If you have a personal connection with Gregg Popovich, then I'm pretty sure you picked up a phone and either texted or called or emailed Gregg Popovich or the Popovich family or someone close to the Popovich family. The idea that a random media member feels the need to jump onto Twitter and say, hey, thoughts and prayers with the Popovich family. I don't understand that impulse. Because who are you saying it to? You're basically saying, look, world, I also feel bad about this thing that everyone else feels bad about. It's a very look at me kind of thing. Then that bleeds over to, all right, well, let's get everyone's opinion about this. LeBron James and Donovan Mitchell, everyone, Steph Curry. Hey, what do you think? What do you think about Pop? I mean, obviously, no one's going to come out and say, you know what? I don't really care much. Everyone obviously feels bad. So it's really a question that does not need to be answered unless it's from someone who knew this person personally and has like things that they want to share.
Yeah, because like I've got a couple levels that I view these things on just kind of entirely. One of them is I'm always personally a little uncomfortable that we use other people's grief as part of our television productions, right? Because like if you're broadcasting a game or whatever it is, It's broadcast just like any other television show. The people who are producing it are finding a story for you to follow along with during the game. Like if you look at what's going on pregame, they are setting up what the story is going to be. And those things that they say 8 or 9 times in the course of a game, we're reminding everybody what happens to be the story, right? And it's one thing when that story is stuff that is related to actual real live basketball. It's another when it's like, this kind of thing, right? Like I guess I don't know. It's a lot there that I don't know what we're doing as an industry always when we do that, I guess, other than maybe providing people what they want, kind of, sort of. But this is like Isaiah Thomas last year with the thing with his sister.
Well, let me clarify. The one exception I would say is when it has a direct impact on the game. So Isaiah Thomas and his sister, while it is a sensitive subject and should not be abused as far as going back to that, it had a real-life impact. This guy went through a lot of grief, and then he's going to go play the game.
I think part of this, though, is that the NBA is big on the idea that it is a family, right? Just like as an overall notion, it's very big on the idea that it is a family. And so if there is a loss in the family, then the family is then going to check in and talk about it. Like I get where everybody's coming from. Like with Allie LaForce, I would never have a problem with Allie LaForce asking that question just because I know damn well there was somebody in her ear who was saying that if you don't, like, let's just say Allie LaForce is like, guys, I'm not going to ask that question. If you're not going to ask that question at that time, you're honestly in the wrong line of work. Part of the job is doing stuff like that. I just feel like stuff like that shouldn't necessarily be part of the job.
Yeah, I agree.
I saw they asked Donovan Mitchell about it, and that's where I was like, oh, okay, wait a minute, what are we doing here? Because, LeBron's been in the league for like 15 years. He is kind of the spokesman for the league. Donovan Mitchell, man, I think he handled it okay, but I was like, ooh, boy, I don't know if he's the one to ask about this. I doubt he's met her.
Honest to God, how many times has Donovan Mitchell met Gregg Popovich, let alone anyone else? Like, just Gregg Popovich, he's probably met him all of 4 or 5 times in his life. How many times have they had a conversation other than, hey, kid, good game? That's the part that short-circuits my brain. It's this idea that everyone has to have an opinion on everything at all moments, even something as personal and heartbreaking as the loss of life.
Part of that, too, is people feel like everybody needs to have a take. Right? Like, no matter what it is, because people will ask me all the time, well, what's your take on this? Buddy, I don't have one. Like, sometimes things just happen to be self-evident and they are what they are. But yeah, that became an interesting thing to watch progress through the social media scape as people went from being mad they asked the question to saying, oh, okay, it's cool because LeBron was asked first. And I'm like, oh, no. The problem was always that it was asked in the first place so that you felt like that you had to. But I guess for everybody involved there, this is something that you go to LeBron to get a statement on because he is kind of sort of the deputy commissioner of the NBA.
Yes, his opinion does matter because he is pretty much the face of our league. It's just like you said, though, should we solicit anyone's opinions on this particular type of topic?
Yeah, it's a fair question. Now, by the way, there was actual basketball last night, and LeBron had one of those LeBron games, and they only won by 3 points. That's got to be worrisome, right?
I mean, not only won by 3 points, but they won basically by the grace of God of saying, please, Victor Oladipo, don't make this shot. Not because we stopped you, not because we made it hard for you, just because, Kadeem Hardison's ghost is floating above the rim and he's just going to blow right when the ball comes. Well, I mean, that's terrifying. And again, this is the Indiana Pacers, right? This and Bo, this is kind of where I've been pretty much since the middle of the year, since the trade. The trade was always going to make Cleveland better offensively, and it would make them marginally better defensively. But it wasn't going to cure everything, right? Because a lot of this stuff, it's not personnel driven. It's practice time, it's schemes, it's being able to get everyone on the same page where we're acting instead of reacting. And when you look at Cleveland and the struggles they're having to beat a scrappy Indiana team, but by no means of world beaters, it makes you think, man, what happens when they play Toronto? Because let me tell you something. America doesn't want to understand this. The Toronto Raptors are really, really good. And when I say they're really good, I mean, I know they've been good in years past, but they're good in a completely different way this year. When you talk about their bench play, they got the best bench in the NBA, how deep they go in there. When we talk about their style of play, a very decentralized style of play, which is so starkly different from the way they played in years past. And so these are the things that I can honestly see Cleveland having problems. Now, again, having LeBron James helps. And last night we saw that. He's clearly the difference between a victory and perhaps an abject loss, not just a regular loss. They would have got killed if LeBron wasn't out there doing what he was doing. As the stakes get higher, right, the idea is how much more does he have to put in to guarantee that victory? And the other thing is, how much has he already used? Because I know we like to look at him as superhuman, but there's a finite amount of energy and wear and tear you can put on a guy before he kind of like starts to deplete. So it stands to reason that he's not going to be as fresh in the conference finals if he's scoring 46 to win by 3 in game 2 of the first round.
Let me tell you this, too. When's the last time a team worth a damn played 10 players more than 10 minutes in an NBA playoff game? Like, that tells me not that you are deep, but that once you go to the bench, all them dudes is the same.
I don't think they're bad. They're all good and useful. The only problem is they're useful in the context of LeBron James being one of the 5 guys on the floor. And this is, I think, when we look back at this Cavs era of the best era in Cavs history, pretty much, I think we're going to say to ourselves, was Kevin Love really not that good, or were they just terrible at using him? Because I've always felt like Kevin Love should be utilized more like he was in Minnesota, in the sense that, obviously, when LeBron's on the floor, LeBron's on the floor. But when LeBron's not on the floor, everything should be running through this dude at the elbow, because he's such a great passer, and you can't lay off him because he can shoot. And, you can put together a real offense around Kevin Love for the 12 minutes, 11 minutes that LeBron isn't on the floor on an average, right? It shouldn't be that hard. And by the way, it helps because it gets Kevin Love the moments where he's not just a spot-up guy on the corner or on the wing. And I think that's been one of the failures of the Cleveland Cavaliers in this era. Is just, they didn't do a good enough job of creating a separate ecosystem that exists when LeBron is off the floor.
I tell you this, though, I'm rooting for them, because as much as these are a new-look Toronto Raptors and the Sixers got the young guys and everything else, hey, man, it's so much better for business and for entertainment if we get the Cavs in the finals. If Adam Silver has got to come down to center court in the middle of the game and declare it a forfeit, I'm here for it. That's the dirty secret. I don't even know if I'm comfortable revealing this, but a Raptors NBA Finals is really bad for business. That's so bad for business.
Because people don't get, like, all the numbers, all the metrics that we track for all of this stuff. It's not by the league, it's by the country. And so I don't care if literally every man, woman, and child in Canada is tuned in on TV and via app on their phone and a second TV in the house somewhere else also playing it. It doesn't matter. None of those numbers count. It's great for Canadian ratings. It's terrible for American ratings.
There's a reason why they're the NBA TV All-Stars. That NBA TV game, man, that's a real slap in the face sometimes. You think that. That's really what they are. I'm trying to think who they have to play to not be the NBA TV series. Like, basically, you have to play against LeBron. Otherwise, you guys are on NBA TV.
The Cavs, yeah, pretty much.
Last night, the Jazz pulled that road win out against the Thunder in one of those games where Donovan Mitchell just decided that he was going to take over. Now, where are you on him?
Well, I mean, I think he's a phenomenal player, obviously. Last night, that was something else. I mean, that was, even as someone who's been a very big Donovan Mitchell fan all year long, I was like, I think I might have underestimated the kid, because the amount of poise, I think David Aldridge said, hey, man, when are we going to go ahead and admit this kid is really 30 years old and has been in the league for 10-plus years? And I said, DA, the funny thing is, it's some 30-plus-year-olds who've been in the league 10-plus years on the court tonight who are not playing with the poise of that young man right there. And that's saying a lot, right? This guy is playing more poise than the poise out there. And, Oklahoma City, I'm telling you, man, it's always going to come back down to this. When things are flowing and we're up and down the court, it looks fun. As soon as it turns into an execution game, nobody out there has the discipline to actually execute. They're all living their own Kobe Bryant commercial in their own minds over and over again. And you see that because it's a whole lot of dribble, 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 dribble. Okay, I'm pulling up a pull-up jump shot. And that's not going to get it done, particularly when you're dealing with a team like the Utah Jazz that does execute. And so the shock for me was, man, you would think that the rookie would fall victim to emotional impulses, but no, it's the vets on this side who are doing that. And on this side, Donovan Mitchell was just spectacular.
I still wonder how long we're going to let Billy Donovan skate. Like, Billy Donovan had one good playoff series, and they didn't even win it. How long does he continue to skate for this?
Well, first of all, the guy we need to bring the task on this is Izzy Gutierrez, because this guy swears by Billy Donovan for things that happened a decade ago. And a completely different level of, I don't let Billy Donovan skate. I didn't let Scott Brooks skate. I've always held that their offense is very simplistic. But I also wonder, and this is the stuff that, like, you don't know, none of us know, being on the outside. Unless you've been on the inside, we don't know. How much of that is these guys are not very creative coaches, and how much of it is they've got guys that don't care what you got to say, right? And that's it. Like, you can drop the most beautiful plays. If they look at it like, all right, whatever, and then go, I clear out ISO, then there's not much. I mean, what are you going to do as a coach? You're going to run out there and like that coach from that like bitty ball league, where he go up there and swat him the layup of his own kid because he's shooting on the wrong basket. And you can't do anything. You really can't do anything. And by the way, in this league, you can't come out in the press conference afterwards and, well, I drew up a hell of a play, but Captain so-and-so over here decided to throw it. You can't do that, right? You just got to be like, we thought we got a good look at it. And you got to do all of this double speak of covering for their refusal to execute, but also kind of taking the brunt of that blame.
Now, what was interesting when Brooks was there, and I remember this in the early years, where they were trying to run sets late at games, and they were just awful at it. Right? Like, whenever it would happen, you see Westbrook just standing at the top of the key, pounding the ball on the ground, and nobody is getting open. But that was with a younger Westbrook. So I don't know what exactly the dynamic is that they have right now, but they got to figure out something. Because, look, they got at least two guys on this team that can get their own shot, and that'll take you a long way into playoffs. I don't know what Melo is, though, in 2015, to be perfectly honest.
If he's not on fire offensively, why would you play him at the end of a game? That's the parts I don't understand. And then I do understand, because I know it's not just like, hey, what's the best basketball decision? It's also, you got to make decisions to make sure you don't have mutiny on the high C out there. You can't lose. You know what I'm saying? You can't lose the crew. And if you do something that's perceived as disrespectful to a very honored member of the crew, then you're going to lose the crew. And so you're forced to say, well, Melo's been in these situations throughout his career. I want him out there. Yeah, yes and no. But also, he's terrible. And he didn't have it going offensively. We know defensively he won't have it going. And so, let Derek Favors have a 20-20 game, right? Because we have to play Melo at the 4th.
Well, let me tell you what is also possible, that the Andre Robertson injury may actually prove more impactful to what's ultimately going to happen in the postseason than the Kyrie Irving injury does. Because I think Boston might go about as far without Kyrie as they were going to go with him. The Thunder, at the very least, when they had Robertson, who I call self-check, but man, they're the best defensive team in the league when they got him. At least they have that.
He was elite, and Bo, I'll tell it like this. This is when the ballots come out, a lot of eyebrows are going to be raised. I had him All-NBA third defensive team despite playing only 39 games. And I thought long and hard, and I know there are other deserving guys out there in the league who could have and should have been on this team. But I thought what he did for them defensively was so stark when you look at when he's on the floor versus when he's not on the floor, what they were like before he got hurt versus what they were like after he got hurt. The impact was so stark. I said, even playing less than half the games in the league, I need to find a way to recognize this guy. At first, I had him on my Defensive Player of the Year ballot. Then I was like, nah, that's too much. It's too much because Anthony Davis is amazing, and I won't give away the rest. But there were three really amazing guys who were in the deep boy conversation. So I said, but I have to give that nod. I felt the need to say, look, this dude right here, he's really important. You guys are focusing on them guys over there, but this is the guy who was the linchpin who allowed all the other stuff to happen.
I acknowledge the possibility that Andre Robertson might be not just the best defensive player in the league, but maybe the best defensive player of all time. Because for you to be, and this is why I say this, for you to be as bad as he is offensively and still get the minutes that he logs, you can't just be kind of good on defense. Like, you think about this, can you name a player that has played more perimeter minutes who's a worse shooter?
Tony Allen.
Tony Allen is Pistol Pete Maravich compared to this dude.
This is what I'll say. He's gotten better at, look, they're not going to guard me on the perimeter, so I need to move. I need to either crash boards or you know what my guy Cooper Moore had done in Miami calls the ghost cut, which is I'm in the corner and the guy guarding me is like, he's on the corner. I can start helping, and if it goes back there, I'll recover in time. And then when the ball starts to move, his man starts to move back to the corner to guard him, and he's not there anymore because he's already cut to the front of the rim, and he gets a layup. Robertson this year, I think, had finally started to ascend to a place where, you know what, I can't shoot, and there's nothing wrong with that because I can find different ways to make myself valuable on the offensive end. For him to get hurt, and the type of injury it was, by the way, just complete rupture of his knee. That's kind of. I hope he comes back okay and able to play at the same level.
Wow, that was a bit of a bummer, but it's cool. Speaking of a bit of a bummer, I guess I've never actually talked to you about this as you being a New Yorker, which is, you know, not the most attractive thing about you, but whatever. Are you a Knicks fan?
Not after I work for him.
Oh, I didn't realize I didn't realize you worked for him.
Yeah, man. There's something about working at the sausage factory that makes you say, I think I might go vegetarian. I don't know.
Hold on. When did you work? When did you work for them?
I was an intern in basketball operations in the 2004-2005 season. So if you're keeping track at home, that is the season upon which many of the incidents that ended up in the lawsuit occurred.
Wow. I don't know how I did not realize this until right now. One, though, you're right. You don't. It's a dangerous game working for some place that you rooted for or something to that effect, right? Because you have a haloed idea of what it is. Because the Knicks were good when you were growing up. They didn't really start getting sorry till you showed up there, right?
No, they've been sorry after I showed up. But I thought, in my mind, hey, we're going to fix this. And I'm going to be part of the group that fixes this. And the city's going to be proud again, and people are going to be. And you're thinking everyone's got that kind of that motivation in life, and you walk in there and you realize, nope, everyone's got like their own agenda, and this is just like any other corporate America job. Everyone's just trying to get to know the right people so that they can keep moving up that ladder.
What do you think about their coaching search? Like, what direction do you think they should go in?
Here's the problem, and I get these questions a lot also in Phoenix because they're going through a coaching search as well. Whoever the coach is, whatever the pick is, they've got to make sure that the owner and the general manager / management team are on the same page as this dude, right? So Jeff Hornacek was hired and immediately had his legs cut out from under him because they made him run an offensive system that he's never run before, which is kind of ridiculous. If you want a triangle coach, go out. You want to run a triangle, go out and get a triangle coach. And then we don't have to worry about the guy learning at the same time as the players are, right? Imagine the teacher trying to learn the material at the same time as he's teaching the class. Doesn't make sense, right? And by the way, that takes away his authority, right? Because hey, like players know, like, man, this dude can't even run the offense he wants to run. Why? What makes me actually want to have to listen to him or respect him or anything like that? And so that's first and foremost. They have to decide on what kind of philosophy they want to have and invest in that. And then the next thing beyond that is you look at, and this is important, they have to know the right philosophy. Basically, Porzingis is your star, and we're at a game where everyone's 5 out. So if you got a coach whose idea of how to use Porzingis is throw it to him on the block, like he's Patrick Ewing, then that's probably not the coach for you.
Say his
right?
name.
You got to figure that out.
Say his name. Say his name.
I won't say any names. I'm speaking just in generalities here. Just you have to understand the assets that you have and how they should be used, and then go out and find someone who knows how to use them like that and be bought in on that. And I'm assuming once you're bought in on the style, you can be bought in on who the person is who can run that style. It doesn't make sense to go. I mean, we went through this in Phoenix when we hired Terry Porter, and our thing was, well, we wanted to get a little bit. We obviously want to get better defensively, but we didn't want to sacrifice any of the offense. And so we hired Terry Porter, and a lot of it was because Terry had experience on Rick Adelman's staff, and Rick Adelman has always been a great offensive coach. And then Terry obviously played with Steve Kerr, and Terry's reputation as a player was a defensive guy and all that. And then when you look at the numbers, though, his defense really, as a coach, wasn't stellar in Milwaukee. And then offensively, it wasn't good either. And so it was one of those things where we bought into a guy assuming that he could deliver a certain system, and he really couldn't. That wasn't his forte. And so it was a bad fit. And you know, that's not a knock on Terry Porter. That's a knock on our search process and our decision to hire a guy that didn't fit the needs that we had at the time. And so for the Knicks, it's the same thing, man. You've got to make sure, from an X's and O's standpoint, this guy fits our needs at this time as far as how we're trying to play basketball. And then secondarily, from just a human standpoint, this is someone that you believe in and you want to be on the same page with, that has a like mind in terms of basketball philosophy.
I realize in talking about this, one awkward thing about working at ESPN when a coaching search happens is while everybody's waiting on a coaching job, they come and hang out with us. You know, they work for us. I look at the 3 days that are involved in Knicks search. We work with two of them. We got Mark Jackson. We got Fizdale. Jerry Stackhouse has come up. And then I forgot about Jeff Van Gundy, but he wasn't taking that job. I think he enjoys not being a coach. He looks so much happier.
Oh, well, I mean, I'll tell you, he's got the best coaching job. He does the USA Basketball, basically the G League All-Stars who play for USA Basketball, which, if you're Van Gundy, that's got to be a dream come true.
Yes.
Like, everything is grit and grind and these hard travel, blue-collar players all day, never have to dealing with diva agendas or hurting people's feelings or any of that. That's basketball nirvana for Jeff.
Right. But I think because Mark Jackson, like a lot of what you talked about there does like kind of apply to Mark Jackson, because my question is, what has he learned since he's been watching the games after what happened with the Warriors? And I don't know if anybody can have an answer for that. That's just talking about the on-court stuff with him. But, man, the Knicks, I feel like part of the thing with them is they feel like they got to win the press conference like no one else has to win the press conference. That being said, they also hired Jeff Hornacek.
And that's the funny thing is the Knicks shouldn't have the pressure to try to win a press conference. They should just make the right hire. But then the one time they didn't try to win the press conference, they instantly through the door cut the guy off under the legs by doing all these other things. And what now this does is it's a negative reinforcer, right? Like, oh, see, that's why we got to win press conferences. Like, no. That's why you have to not undercut your coach as he walks in the door. It had nothing to do with the press conference, but they're going to associate Jeff Hornacek's failure with, see, that's what happens when you go with unknowns or under the radar guys, and that's not fair.
I just want Jerry Stackhouse to get this job because we have not had a Paul Silas-like coach in the league since Paul Silas left. God. If you know what I mean by Paul Silas-like.
Bro, I don't see. This is the thing, though. And much like Paul Silas, these young whippersnappers don't know. That's the thing. They don't know. They don't know. And unlike Paul Silas, Jerry Stackhouse is very much in shape and very much, So it's not like this old man over here. Like, this dude is quick enough to, hey, guys, you try to escape? Like, no, I'm right here. Dude, I just pray, you know what? They got a lot of nice guys over there. I don't see Porzingis or Ntilikina or any of those guys being the talking back type, which I guess is good. But hey, man, I pray nobody in this league thinks they can try Jerry Stackhouse.
I tell you this, though, as our renewable to Paul Silas was in good enough shape.
Not Ira Newell. What about my man Tyrese Thomas?
Well, there was Tyrese Thomas, but nothing beats Paul Silas chasing Ira Newell out of the locker room into the tunnel with media waiting and screaming out, "Get back here, you hip hop MF! I'm not through with you." Nothing is beating that. Nothing at all. Like he had a misunderstanding about what Paul Silas was.
One of these days, I will tell you the Tyrese Thomas story.
Ooh.
And it is remarkable. It's never been told in public, but it is one hell of a story.
Oh man! All right, that is Amin Elhassan. What are you up to this week? You doing the jump all week?
Jump today and tomorrow, probably Sports Nation in there. They just feel free to just grab me on that show whenever. I got to plug the SiriusXM NBA radio show I have with Jason Jackson Sundays 10 to 1 Eastern on SiriusXM channel 86.
Dang, you got anything else? You got all the jobs.
I got all the bills too, so.
Well, yeah, I guess you have all the kids, right?
Yeah. they kind of go hand in hand.
Kids are bills. That's not even hand in hand. Their hands are bills. Whatever they touch, you may have to pay for.
Oh, man.
Right.
I was having a good time, right? I was having a good time, and now you got me back in my feelings.
Hey, man, someone has to do it, man. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
All right, we are back here, and in case you guys didn't know, they got the new ESPN Plus app, right? And on the ESPN Plus app, they have all kinds of additional content, and included in that is a series called Detail by Kobe Bryant, where Kobe Bryant goes through and breaks down film. And I was like, wow, it would probably be great if I could get somebody to talk to y'all about what he might have seen watching some of Kobe Detail, and I couldn't think of anybody who would enjoy a job like that more than my good buddy who is the producer of Freddie and Fitz on ESPN Radio. His name is Shannon Penn. Shannon, did you get a chance to check out Kobe Detail?
I was pleasantly surprised by that. I was really into it. I was wondering when Kobe retired, what was he going to do? You knew Kobe was still going to be involved in the game, but what would be his contribution? This is actually pretty enlightening here. He said it himself that this is not about debate. He's going to enlighten. And I came away from the first two videos being very enlightened. Of course, the first video that he did was one of himself, but I get it. I get you got to do that. So far the first two videos have been really good. He broke down in 2009 Western Conference Finals, and then in the second game he did game one of the Raptors series. So far, so good. I'm actually enjoying Kobe.
You know what I thought was funny, though? I was watching Get Up the other morning, and they showed him breaking down some film. I think it was of DeMar DeRozan coming off a pick and roll. He's talking about all the options and what the smart play was. And I'm feeling like there's a Kobe detail for what he tells other people to do in those situations. And then there's what would Kobe do? Because I see three dudes around DeMar DeRozan, and he's like, okay, well, you got this pass, whatever it is. And I know in Kobe's mind, all he sees is a J.
There's the proverbial LeBron smart play. That's the smart basketball play to make. So we get that. But then there's the what would Kobe do? Two different things. Totally different things.
Because I am fascinated by the idea of watching this with Kobe, right? I love the idea of Kobe breaking down film. I totally love that. But I couldn't help it. I'm looking at that so do you just only recognize these things after the fact?
Right. Like Trevor Reeves open at the top of the key. You could have passed it to him, but no, I'm Kobe. I'm good. So what if a Reeves is open? I'm good. You know why? Kobe system. You're welcome.
Just a reminder, I don't hate Kobe. Shannon hates Kobe.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, we got to clarify that. Absolutely. I don't hate Kobe. For me, I actually am entertained by Kobe. I like to root against Kobe because Kobe is the ultimate villain. Because if you think about the characteristics, whether it's a comic book or whatever, a movie, the villain usually has greater power than the protagonist. But somewhere down the line, he has a fatal flaw that in turn will be the end and lead to his demise. And for Kobe, that might be his inability to play well with others. But Kobe, for the exception of maybe when he was on the floor with LeBron, usually the most skilled player on the court. And, of course, he was a great player, but there was something about him that just didn't it was just, I don't know if it had anything to do with the whole Shaq thing, but something about Kobe's personality just didn't click for me.
Yeah, because you're an Iverson guy. How you loving that, man? Yeah, Allen Iverson becoming Sixers super fan in this moment.
Funny how that works, right? I don't think the fans really ever stopped loving him.
Oh, no.
Well, there was a time there towards the end of his first run there with the Sixers where it was kind of skewing that way. But ultimately, for the most part, Sixers fans always loved him, though. And that's the thing. He can always come home. He put his hand up to his ear, do the whole Hulk Hogan, "Do you hear me?" thing, and the crowd goes wild. So that's cool. It's just interesting seeing other Sixers fans, super fans like Kevin Hart, coming out the woodwork. Interesting now. Where were you at the beginning of the process?
Well,
one of them things.
To be fair, you can't come to the playoff games if you're not in the playoffs. Right. That's the one thing for it. And the homie Ben Simmons, man, I've talked about this before. Have you noticed that these other dudes in the league don't seem to like Ben Simmons very much?
I'm here for it. I'm absolutely here for it. In the day and age where everybody gets along, everybody likes each other, this little back and forth between Simmons and Mitchell about rookie of the year, this little back and forth between the two, I love it. You can have respect for these guys, and at the end of the day, you're not trying to fight, but I like the fact that hey, I'm here to win, and if I need to be a killer, I need to be a killer. I'm here for it. I want that. And Simmons, he's going to be one of the better players in the league real soon. He has to develop a jump shot, of course. But let me ask you this, Bo, in regards to the Sixers. Can Simmons be the man in Philly?
I think that is going to be the most fascinating story to watch. We saw Shaq and Penny. We've seen this in other places. This isn't the first time that we've seen a collection of talent get together like this young. We rarely see these collections of talent get together like this young, keep it together long enough to win championships. Like, when's the last time somebody put it together in this way with young dudes and they got to the end with the championship? The Thunder didn't do it. Like Shaq and Kobe, they kind of figured it out. Because when they got Shaq, he was 24, right? Or 25, somewhere in there. And then they added young Kobe. And they held that together, but then eventually that fell apart. But even then, Shaq was already established as a star when he first got in there. How they decide to share this out amongst themselves, whoo, boy, that's the part that they don't give you a manual for.
And they're going to have to figure this out. Now, at some point, if he's going to start looking at all this love that Simmons is going to get, it's like, hey, wait a minute here. You know, y'all was talking about me in the same way this time last year.
Well, think about this, too, man. There are people who have questions in Milwaukee about how well Jabari Parker is handling the fact that he thought he was going to be the man, and then the honest thing happened. That's Jabari Parker. Ricky Davis thought that they brought LeBron in to give him some help. You never know what an NBA player thinks of himself and what he thinks of anybody else.
Well, you think about it, too. You can't necessarily get to the NBA, get to the level of the NBA without having confidence.
Remember we thought that draft had all those superstars, and basically it's all it's been is Embiid?
Well, and you think about it, too. Now you have to start questioning the Wiggins thing here. Like, what is the ceiling of this collection, this group of Karl-Anthony Towns, Wiggins, and Butler? Do you have to move Wiggins to get better? Because you're not moving Butler, and obviously not moving Towns.
But they just gave him all that money, and nobody can be silly enough to take him. Like, he is not a good player. That's what's so wild to me. How in the world is Andrew Wiggins, like, forget about, well, he's not that good. He's not good, period. And I watched that game last night. Towns going to have to big boy up. Like, as much as people criticize that TNT crew, they were dead on at halftime about the fact that this dude's shooting fadeaways on people 7 inches shorter than him. Like, he's going to have to, this idea that you can stretch the floor is cool, but if you're going to be a big man, it don't matter if you're big. If you're not being big, you got to go be big. And then Andrew Wiggins actually isn't that good, and Tom Thibodeau doesn't look like he's that good either. So what the hell are we talking about here?
A team that's about to get swept in the first round of the NBA playoffs.
Out of here. Out of here. Thanks for stopping by the booth. James Harden played like boo-boo last night, and they still lit those boys up.
It didn't matter. Like, if you're not getting Towns playing like big man and Wiggins is underachieving, you got some real questions that you got to answer, like whether or not you can take this next step with the team that is currently constituted.
Yeah, man. Now, you know, another reason that I had to get you on here, I was just curious how you felt about this. You are a fan of the New York Knicks. Those your boys. That's your squad. Do you have any interest in their coaching search? I heard they're interviewing Kenny Smith on Friday.
Here's the thing. If you want to interview for the New York Knicks, or if the Knicks have any interest in you, you just have to have some sort of tie to the greater New York City area. It doesn't matter whether or not it's basketball or not. I wouldn't be surprised if Whoopi Goldberg interviewed you for the job. Why not? We create Eddie. I'm down. Why not? It can't get any worse, right? I mean, come on. Like the Knicks, in the words of the great Cameron Jarrell Newton, the Knicks are continually pushing the pendulum forward. That's all they're doing. Like, as much as they try, it's going to keep coming back. And that's what the New York Knicks are. You know what, us Knicks fans, you know what we are? We're like a bent rim. We're like a bent rim on your car or your bike. And the Knicks themselves are like a tire with a hole in it. And no matter how much air you put into that tire, at some point it's going to go flat and you're going to have a bent rim. Us Knicks fans, we're bent rims. Just wobbling along every season, just wobbling along. Like you think, we got Porzingis, we got potential, you got to take the next step, we're going to put some air in that tire. Nope. And all the while, here we go, hobbling along, bent rims.
But hold up, though. They've given us some cause for optimism, though, because there is one candidate for this job that does not have ties to the New York City area, and that is Jerry Stackhouse. And, like, how do we make this happen?
We need to make this happen. Like, I was going through the names, and I'm like, finish their previous head coaching experience, that would be great. Mark Jackson, former Knicks player, that would be great. But no, we need Stack. We need Stack, and we need Stack to be the guy to come in after Hornacek. Like, we need.
Oh wow, I hadn't even thought about that part.
Hornacek connection. Yes, we need the actual on the court and the off the court, Dirty Stackhouse, Jeff Hornacek. We need to make that happen.
Well, I've been reading up on Stack and his coaching in the D-League, and apparently he had the slowest team in the D-League, but 2 years in a row, they were the best defensive team, which I think if that's the style of play that they're going to have, that and he can be effective with it, then New York City will then, in fact, love him. Like that, I think can be an interesting one. They also talk about bringing in Fizdale, and I just like hearing the most LA accent that we've had in quite a while in public. Like, I'm always here to hear him talk. Like, you want some Kool-Aid? We got some Kool-Aid over here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Fizdale doing press conferences would be the Dog Pound New York video.
Yes.
Fizdale and Stackhouse. Those are my two candidates right there. I'm good either way.
East Coast ain't got no respect for David Fizdale.
Right. Exactly. It's the 95 Source Award. Yes. Give me that's the hope. You want to make New York great again? Let's bring in an L.A. rapper and have him conquer New York, not named Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah, y'all need something, man. Like, I'm kind of starting to feel bad for you guys, man. That Porzingis injury, that had to be really demoralizing, like, to be a Knicks fan, I imagine.
Just no hope. Like, the Knicks are, and their fans are in constant purgatory. That's what we are. We're comfortable with that. We're home with that. Whatever happens, it's going to come crashing down. We're going to find a way to win a game or two late in the season so we can secure a top 2 NBA pick in the draft, because that's what we do.
Hey, man, but at least you have the Giants, right? And I have something I want to bring up with you on the Giants. I had thought about this. I don't know if you've been paying attention, man, but it sounds like they talking to Eli, like Eli's going to be the quarterback not just this year, but like maybe like a down-the-line quarterback. Like they're thinking about having him for a few years. But I also saw something that said that Josh Allen was a quarterback that the Giants might have had their eye on. And Shannon, think about it. They could draft Josh Allen, and that way they'd get the young quarterback they need, and Eli would still be the starter for years.
How does that help them? Like, how does that help them? Honestly, how does that help them? If you're going to draft a quarterback, granted, Allen might not be ready to play now, but how does that help them drafting Allen and still playing Eli? That gets you nowhere.
I know, but the problem is Josh Allen ain't going to be good, so Eli's going to have to start.
I saw a draft comparison. I forgot who tweeted it out. What's the difference right now coming out between Josh Allen and Logan Thomas?
Yes.
There's no difference. Look at the completion percentages. Yeah, he has the biggest arm in the draft, but his decision-making is not the best, and he doesn't have the best touch. There is no difference.
But I love all this, though. The Giants are really out here on some, we got Eli, we're good. Why do you think that?
The only way that I would justify it, because it's hard not to fall in love with Saquon Barkley. Like, you look at the highlights, he's a great interview, like all of that stuff. I get that, running with Eli a couple of years if you have a Saquon. Like, my heart gets that. My head, on the other hand, says, if Sam Darnold is there, you take him. And, maybe Eli for this last year, but then you move forward with Darnold. That's ultimately where I would go. Hopefully, maybe the Browns are silly enough to take Josh Allen with the first overall pick, then leaving the Giants there with the decision between Darnold and Barkley. Maybe Darnold goes first, and that forces the Giants to make the decision. They can't take Josh Allen, man. I'll tell you right now. You know who's the first person who's going to call me? Bomani Jones.
Sure is. You know me well. By the way, Gabe just hit me to this. Apparently, Jim Dolan said Porzingis might not play this year.
The entire year?
Whole year, bro. By the way, I'll make you feel better. I will make you feel better. Have you heard about the #1 sports app? Well, it just got better. This is no small update. This is an all-new ESPN app. The new app combines everything ESPN all in one place. Live games, shows, highlights, and scores, of course. But now we're adding ESPN Plus. ESPN Plus brings you more of the sports, teams, and leagues you love. Thousands of additional live events, exclusive releases, along with the complete 30 for 30 collection. The all-new ESPN app. Download now. Start your free trial of ESPN Plus today. See, Shannon, you heard about that, and it reminded you of all the joy that you had watching Kobe detail, and now you feel better.
Well, and speaking of that, so with Kobe breaking down this film, and he's breaking down the playoffs, he broke down the game, when he played. There's one piece of footage that he hasn't broken down that I would love for him to break down.
Do tell.
Hey, why not? Let's break down Knicks Lakers back when Chris Childs and Kobe Bryant had their little incident when Chris Childs served them up with the 2-piece and a biscuit. So I'm going through my notes here, and I'll try my best to put on my Kobe voice and sound super smart. But so here I am. I'll be Chris Childs going through this scenario. with Kobe.
Do it.
And so he's looking at the footage, and I'm a smaller player, and I'm more aggressive than Kobe liked. So he gave me an elbow up high. And I tried to tell officials, but they just shrugged their shoulders. So I knew what time it was. I was going to have to take matters into my own hands. So here we are. We came down the court, and Kobe did it again. And I warned him. I was like, yo, you need to chill out with that. So then Kobe responded with, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it? So then I definitely knew what time it was. We came down the court again. I gave him a little head nod, right, because he gave me that weak little elbow. And if you're going to give an elbow, you got to give a full elbow. You can't go halfway with the elbow. So he gives me the elbow. I give him the head nod, right? The little head nod was just to get some space, right? You break this down. You got to get space so you can extend. So I give him the little head nod. Boom. Get him away from me, and then I serve him up with not one, boom. If you look at my left foot, I kind of pivoted there. That was my lead foot. I pivoted there. Boom. Gave him one with the left, came back with the right. Boom. Like, boom, boom. You got to put the pressure on the defense. And he had no anticipation for it, because as Bomani says, you don't have to get ready when you stay ready. And, of course, Kobe at that time wasn't stay-ready all-star. So I hit him with the one, brought it back with the right. Boom. He wasn't ready. That was it. Now, me personally, being the man I am, being from L.A., I could have hit him harder, but I didn't want to. I looked at previous footage of Kermit Washington, what happened there with PJ. I didn't want that stuff to happen. So there you are, Chris Charles, 2 pieces of biscuit, ESPN Plus, Kobe Bryant, Mamba out.
Does he really say Mamba out on the Kobe detail?
No, but he should.
Oh, I just had to. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Shannon Penn. Check him. Producer Freddie and Fitz is 9 to 1, right?
ESPN Radio. You catch us everywhere. You catch ESPN.
My bad. Thank you. I greatly appreciate it.
All right, I'm going back to sleep now.
All right, now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us here on The Right Time. Thanks to Amin Elhassan and to Shannon Penn for joining us. Remember, subscribe to the show at the ESPN app. You can also do so with Apple Podcasts. Rate us, review us. We like 5 stars, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Thanks for checking out The Right Time with Bomani Jones podcast.
You can listen or subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
The Right Time
with Bomani Jones.